Hey kids, remember the Warhammers? Remember this map? Remember the solo wargaming guide back before the dark ages of the channel? We had a good time using the solo wargaming guide to run a map-based campaign to generate battles fought using Warhammer 6th edition. Today, we're finally going to pick that back up. Today is the 26th of the month. I think it's March 26th. And we've got a force of the Bromans. These are loosely modeled on the Imperial army list. And they are trying to take this little village right here. See the skull? See that tomb? It's defended by the forces of Desdemona. Those are the forces of the Necromancer. This is the crossroads. That road up there takes you to the Necromancer's castle. You can see the tomb that the dark forces will be defending over here. The roads have no effect. They're just for show. We have a dark wood, a light wood, and a patch of very tall grass. The tall grass blocks line of sight, but not movement. The very difficult terrain slows movement to 1/4 normal speed, the light woods to half speed, and of course all 4 of these block line of sight. The Bromans are going to deploy down here. In the campaign, they've been marching up this road, and the force of the undead has arrived here at the crossroads. They've summoned, I believe they summoned a few more skeletons, and I'm just going to go ahead and deploy all the units, and then we'll take a look at what those rosters are. Effectively, we're going to play 6 turns, see where things result. The undead deploy second, actually, but we're going to show them first because it's easier. This hero, all by himself, is an Iron Thrall, Dane Pualton. He does have heavy armor, a sword, and a shield +1, giving him an ultimate save of 3+. He only has a unit of 25 skeletons, a unit of 20 skeletons, a unit of 19 zombies, and 2 banshees to work with. The banshees are going to be a real sticking point because they are ethereal, and that means the only one that's capable of touching them or harming them on the side of the Bromans is this level 2 wizard over on the left flank of the Bromans, Neil McGram. He's a level 2 wizard of light, so he's got that going for him. He's got Burning Gaze and, what's this other one? Foz Illumination, the Lord's Illumination. Our boys are Christian after all. As you can see, he is flanked by a unit of spearmen. Normally, they started out with 20, but they've taken some casualties, and they haven't recovered all of their wounded yet. There's just 14 spearmen in this unit. They do have a banner. They do have a champion. See this fella here with the big sword and the heavy armor? In the front row, they're anchoring that left-hand side of the line. The guys here in the foreground are former slaves of the necromancer. They have been freed by the Bromans, and now they are willing to fight, but they're pretty useless. They operate as spearmen. They have ballistic skill, weapon skills of 2, and then leadership of 6 is the big thing. So they're not really steady, but we may be able to use them to plug some gaps. And of course, immediately to his right, we have a unit of 12 archers. Over here on the far right-hand side of the battle line is the Great Cannon Moses. We've got another unit. This one is unbloodied. This is a unit of 20 spearmen. Is it 20 or 25? 15, yeah, 25. And again, we've got one champion. This is our champion right there with the big sword. They do have a banner that's going to help them because remember, when they're fighting undead, they're going to waver. They're going to have to pass some leadership checks. That's why we put Captain Legan Manstill. He's the old man of the group right there. I love this figure. My 15mm figures are from a wide selection of manufacturers, mostly Coruscant. This guy and the champions are from and in fact, the Bannermen as well. They're great matches for these Coruscant figures. The heroes are from the old Demon World line of miniatures. And then here we have 6. It's a fairly small unit of Knights of the Lamb. In Warhammer terms, these would be Knights of the Grail, or Grail Knights, I think they're called. We call them Knights of the Lamb for obvious reasons, and then we get back into those archers that we saw. Taken as a whole, the battlefield looks a little something like this. Everybody is going to just use these line of terrain to anchor their left or right flank respectively, which means we are ready to roll for initiative. Bone white for the Bone Boys, yellow for for the guys in yellow. And the skeletons get to go first, and they will, of course, take advantage of that by moving. Dane joins forces with the larger of his two spearmen units, and everybody creeps forward 2 inches. We're going to use the zombies as a screen to try to get that second unit of spearmen engaged. The banshees can move an extra inch. Remember, we're playing half scale, so these 2-inch movements are really move 4. The 3 inches that we've moved our banshees is really move 6. And unfortunately for them, they're still further than 4 inches away, so their whale isn't going to be able to auto-hit any of the Bromans, who now have the opportunity to move themselves. The Bromans advance their 2 spearmen units forward. They're going to hang back with the peasants and the archers, and of course the wizard. The knights turn 90 degrees. That costs them a quarter move. They move an additional 3 inches. They're going to hold right here. The idea being they're going to want to sweep around, and once this unit is engaged, they can hit whoever they're engaged with in the flank and do some good. That takes us to the magic phase. And for that, we're going to look at the wizard right down here. Neil McGram is going to cast Burning Gaze. If successful, it will do d6 strength 4 hits against those banshees. Everybody gets 2 magic dice. A level 2 battle mage gets an additional 2. He's looking for 5 or better, hoping he doesn't roll a pair of 1s. He does not, and with a result of a 13, there's no way that Dane Pualton can dispel on 2d6, which is all he's got. So we've done d6 strength 4 hits. We get 4 strength 4 hits against a toughness 4 creature. 4s or better will wound. We get 4 wounds, which is enough to completely destroy the banshees, which really changes the nature of this battle. They didn't even get a shot off. Now we are into the missile phase, and we can start with our archers, who are right here. They have a range of 12 inches, and they're going to open fire at the nearest unit, which is this skeleton unit right there. The skeleton unit, as you can see, is about 9.5, 10 inches away. We've only got 6 archers in the front, so we'll go ahead and roll our 6 attacks. Hitting on 4s means we're wounding on 4s. We get 2 wounds on the saving on 6s. Forgive me if I stutter. It's been a while since I've played this. 2 failed saves mean we are going to pluck off 2 of the skeletons off the back, and then we have one last shot to deal with. Moses thunders out his command. He's firing at the zombies down here. And to do that, we have to make an estimate how far we're going to fire the cannon. Then we roll 2 dice, and I make the estimate straight up, 10 inches. I think it's further than that. We're going to measure 10 inches. We're going to roll 2d6. So 10 inches will land right here. And then our 2d6, let me use the white die just to make it clear. That's 10 inches. And then we're going to add 2d6 divide by 2. And we get an extra 3 inches of movement out of that. And that 3 inches is going to hit 2 of the zombies, doing strength hit 10 hits. You don't get any save for this. In fact, I think it does D3. The Great Cannon does D3, strength 3 hits, but anybody hit gets a little wonky here. It says any model struck takes a strength 10 hit. Oh, there's no saves is the deal. So 2 strength 10 hits, only saving on a 1, or wounding on anything but a 1. We get a 2 and a 4, so that's going to knock off 2 of the zombies. And that's it for shooting. We've done a little bit of good. That is also going to be the end of the turn. Remember that the undead don't take any morale checks. Heading into turn number 2, our thrall realizes which way the wind is blowing, and knowing that in a campaign game he has to preserve his Dark Lord and Master's forces, he's gonna run. Okay, he's got to take these 25 spearmen, and he's going to try to get them off that corner of the board. Meanwhile, he'll send these zombies and this smaller unit of spearmen to block for this force. If they can get back to the Dark Castle, that will cause all kinds of problems in a later battle for the Broman warrior. And this movement will end the undead turn. Remember, there is another force coming down the road this way for the undead. Really, what it amounts to is the loss of those banshees was huge. Without firing a shot or sounding a wail, They didn't do any casualties. They're just going to get steamrolled by the rest of these forces. The skeletons over here have wheeled a little bit, and the zombies are just moving out to block. They're going to get shot to pieces. And eventually, once these knights catch up, it's going to be curtains for them. But they may be able to buy enough time for Dane and his forces to escape off the corner. In the meantime, we're going to leave these, maybe we'll swing these guys around. Actually, we'll just kind of leave them there. The Graham over here, Neil McGraham, is going to take a couple of shots. We're going to try to reduce this unit a little bit. We'll shoot with the archers as well, but let me do movement first. To keep the pressure up, Captain Mansfield does order this unit of spearmen to start marching off to the left flank. Keep some pressure on these guys. Make sure they really do run off the table in the direction we want them to go. Our wizard, Neil McGraham, and the archers have moved up, and these peasants also moved up just to back them up, just in case something goes really wrong. We'll put some more pressure. That does take us to the, we'll look at the right flank here in a minute. That takes us to spellcasting. We're just going to repeat. We're going to try to fire that blazing gaze. And this time around, we get an 8, we get a 13, so there's not going to be any dispelling, and that means we will do a total of D6. We get 6 strength 4 hits, looking for 4s, and we hit on 2 of those. We are saving on 6s, and with no saves, we will be able to remove 2 of those spearmen from that unit, and then the archers have a total of 6 shots themselves. They are within range. There's your 12 inches to demonstrate. Our 6 archers are only hitting on 6s. We get 1 hit, and he saves, and he needs a 4 to wound, and with the 2, there's going to be no wounds over there, which means we get to play with the big gun. Fortunately for Moses and the men working him, short range is... Oh, I have to declare first. Short range is 15 inches. We won't have that minus. We are going to be firing 8 inches plus the result of... Well, so let's measure that 8. That drops it right here. And then we roll 2d6 to find out how... to check the bounce. The bounce is going to be, well, in our case, it's 2d6 minus 2d6 divided by 2. So an additional 4 inches is going to take that all the way to there. We are going to fire right through the rank. We're going to get 3 of them this time. And they are going to wound on anything but a 1. So 3 more of these zombies get peeled off the back row, and we may just want to camp out. Notice on the movement that we were able to advance. They're far enough away. Our knights are facing the wrong way as they wheel around. We may just wheel them all the way around the backside and see if we can hit those spearmen that are fleeing. But that's for next turn. We don't have any melee, so the turn is over. There's no one that needs to rally. No one that has to rally, no one that has morale checks has taken any casualties, so we can move right on to turn number 3. After movement, it's pretty clear that these zombies are probably going to be wiped out. We're not sure what kind of good we can do with these spearmen, and Dane is a full 6 or 7 turns away from the corner. He's never going to make it out alive, or unalive, if you will. So I don't think he has any choice, but he's going to have to... I've already moved him for this turn, but for next turn, I think he's got to try to race up this road. If we can get him off the field in that direction, then he has a chance to link forces with the undead force that is already coming down the road. They're only about a half a day's march away. So from a campaign perspective, it's got to be that way. And this is why campaigns add so much rich detail to your tabletop battles. Remember that undead cannot force march. They only move 2 inches on my table per turn, which means this unit of human spearmen is going to catch them if they try to run off the table in that direction. We're going to leave the archers still and bring our peasants up here to help protect the archers, and that leads to an interesting conundrum over here on the right flank for the Roman Empire. Do we combine both of these forces to take out the zombies, which will allow this unit of spearmen to come up and maybe threaten the archers and the peasants? In a tabletop battle, that wouldn't matter, but in a campaign game, do we want to risk losing one of these 2 units, or do we continue to march these spearmen over here? And what happens if the undead spearmen over here, if Dane decides, I'm going to wheel around and take this smaller unit off the board? If they get too far out on the wing there and they're all alone, that could cause a big problem down the line when it comes time to do the final assault on the Vampire Lord's castle. And the answer to that is your spears are already in charging distance. Take the charge. Zombies have to just eat it. They have to hold. Undead have to hold all the time. Because they were further than 4 inches away, again, it's 8 inches, but 4 inches on my table, our Knights of the Lamb are able to move up almost 10 inches and then make the 90-degree turn, but they're going to hold there for potentially charging next turn. Now, I already did this movement for the charge, but we do have to do missile and magic first before we handle this melee. 4 dice versus 2 dice. Blazing Gaze one more time with the double sixes. Well, that's pretty good. The automatic failure for the boxcars on the dispel takes precedence over the automatic success for the boxcars on the spell, which means we can turn our attention to the archers who will be firing at this unit. Seeing the writing on the wall, we want to whittle those numbers down too. And with a total of, now they're at long distance, so we are only hitting on 5s. That is 0 hits. Weapon skill 2 for the zombies, 3 for the humans, means 6 red dice hitting on 4s and 12 blue dice hitting on 3s. This feels a lot like a game of Dragon Ramping. Taking out the misses, everybody is wounding on 4s, but only the red dice get a save. This is the one spearman who has to save on a 5 or a 6. Light armor and shield. So we lose 1 spearman, and the zombies are going to lose a total of 4 of their number. But I forgot, the spearmen need to pass a leadership test of 8 if they're even going to charge the undead. And with a result of a 10, they did, so that doesn't negate this combat at all. The spearmen are at a total of +4, +1 for the banner, +1 for outnumbering, and +2 full ranks behind means they've scored 8 to 1. But because they are undead, they lose 1 extra guy for every point they lost by. That means another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there are just 2 zombies left. Heading into turn 4, the Vampire Thrall says, look, if you want to fight, we outnumber you. We can win this battle. We can win the war of attrition. We can always just raise more undead. He does turn this unit of skeleton spearmen to face the charge. We know that's coming. These zombies are going to crumble on the melee turn, which, by the way, is right now. We're going to roll it now. And I know in the last turn, we probably should have rolled first for the spearmen because they have a higher initiative, but ultimately it didn't matter. It was going to be 6 versus 12 regardless of the outcome. We have 6 versus 2, and again, those red dice are hitting on 4s, and the blue dice are hitting on 3s. So that's a lot of hits. Taking out the misses. Everybody. Oh, I hope my wife watches this. She likes to hear me say taking out the misses. I'm sure I'm not the first person to make that joke either. We're not going to do quite so well on the hits, but we only need 2 to eliminate the last of the zombies. That one zombie gets a 3. No one gets hurt there. And the Imperial spearmen have successfully crushed those zombies, suffering just 1 loss of their own. The spearmen continue to shadow. They can stay a good 4 inches away and just kind of herd the skeleton spearmen and the thrall off the table. They can wait. Maybe if things go well over here, they'll be able to get some support. But for right now, that's not a fight that the Empire wants to have. The freed peasants chomping at the bit. They've moved up to put some more pressure on the skeletons as well. But we do have our mage and our archers kind of hanging back. Now the knights, they shifted, did a little S. They're getting ready to charge over here, but they've already moved, and we do have a charge declaration here, but this time I remembered they have to pass a leadership test if they want to do so, and they're not going to be able to charge this turn. They must remain stationary. We've pulled the banner back just to show that. That means it's spell time. We're going to cast our gaze upon the terrifying... I'm going to re-roll that one. And as you can see, we got a 5. We're doing fine. It's going to be D6... 3 strength 4 hits against those skeletons, and that means we are wounding on 4s. I think he gets a 6-up save. We've eliminated 1 skeleton. That won't make a difference. Oops, sorry, Mr. Zombie. I warned you guys. My depth perception is all off. I make little mistakes like that. It's okay. Now we got to do the 6 archers that can fire. We probably should have... At some point, we could have expanded our ranks and gone with 8 shots, but that would have cost us. We're beyond long range, so we are only hitting on 5s, and we're only going to get 1 hit. That hit is going to be a wound, unless we get a save of a 6, and with a 5, that won't do it, so we've planked off a 2nd skeleton. Hey, we'll take it. That, then, is going to be the end of the turn. Before we move on to turn number 5, I should point out that Moses has spent the last 2 turns shifting his position. He's looking to line up a shot. And remember, the first thing you do is line it up. But he now has a shot on either of these units if the situation remains static. So Dane says, heck with this, I'm getting out of here. He peels off from the group, who is still trying to get to the corner before these guys can get to them. Over here on this side of the table, the skeleton spearmen are going to have no problem charging into the humans and slowing them down. And of course, the Knights of the Lamb are going to charge on the next turn. I find it highly unlikely that we're going to lose a total of 10 of the Imperial Spearmen, so we're just going to go ahead and roll all 24 dice, rank on rank, although I do have 1 extra die because the Imperials have a champion on board, so he gets to make 2 attacks. And then they also have Captain Legan Manstill, who's got a weapon skill of 5. You know, I should probably take out one of these blue dice. We'll just leave it. We'll kind of gimp him this turn, but next turn we got to remember that Captain Manstill, with that weapon skill of 5, he can hit on, I think it's like a 2+. Doesn't matter. For here, all we need to worry about is hitting on 4s. And I didn't declare who is who. On a 1, 2, 3, the red dice are the skeletons. So the skeletons get a whole lot of hits. All of these are going to be the same. This is going to be the blue and the yellow are going to be for the Imperial forces. We'll roll them all, and they will all be wounding on 4s and saving on 6s. So rolling them all, I misspoke. The skeletons on the blue dice are saving on 5s. Everybody else is saving on, 6s. The blue dice are saving on 6s. So that's 2 wounds, saving on 5s, to 3 wounds for the Empire. The skeletons have a total score of 3. The Empire has a total score of 2, plus 1 for the banner for 3. Plus they have 1 extra full rank. They win by 1. That's another skeleton down, and this combat will continue on the Empire's turn, but they have to do movement first. Got him. The spearmen on the left flank are about 3 inches away. These skeleton spearmen are going to have to decide whether to get charged in the flank or pivot and fight the all-out battle here. The peasants hold still while we wait for this combat to resolve. We did bring the archers up, just kind of rotate them just in case things go bad. We do have some shooting to do first. Our cannon has a long range of 30 inches on our table. I'm going to declare that we're shooting 16 inches plus 2d6 divided by 2. 16 plus another 2 will carry us into the 20-inch mark. Oops, that 6, if it's the first die rolled, means we have to roll on the misfire chart. If it's the second die, that ball don't bounce. We get it right later in the video. For this time, we're just going to have to power ahead. This melee is going to be a little complicated. We've got chargers, we've got champions, we've even got a captain in there. So we're going to take it one step at a time. The guys that hit first are the guys that charged into combat. Now, they have a weapon skill of 4 versus weapon skill of 3 for their mounts. That means we have different numbers. They're both going up against a weapon skill of 2, which means all of our 2 hit rolls succeed on a 3, but the red dice are going to have +2 on the roll to wound. Meaning that with these 3 hits, and this is why we rolled different colored dice, these guys are going to be wounding on basically anything but a 1, and this is only going to wound on a 4-up. So 4 and then 2, so we do get, well, but we have to save at 6s, and we don't get any saves. So the knights are able to wipe out 3 of these spearmen. Then the Imperial spearmen get to attack, but it's a little more complicated. Our captain has a weapon skill of 5. He hits on anything but a 1, so he does a 3. He wounds, but he fails. And now we've got a total of 12. So if you look, we've got 6 guys in the front row, but we do have a champion. He gives us +1 attack, so we still roll 12 dice, and we're going to be hitting on, well, they got a weapon skill of 3 versus weapon skill of 2. Still hitting on 3s. We get 9 hits altogether, and we will be wounding on 4s this time. That's just going to be 2 wounds, and then saving on 6s, we get 1 save. So only 4 skeletons after all those attacks, and as you can see, we've only got 11 skeletons left over who are standing, who can attack back. Rolling 11 dice, and in this case, because they're attacking weapon skill of 2 versus a weapon skill of 3, they're hitting on 4s. We'll take out all of the 1s, 2s, and 3s. They get a total of 7 hits. They will be wounding on 4s. And because our Imperial troops have light armor and a shield, they are going to be able to save on 5s. No saves means 2 of our spearmen are down. So the final tally, as far as kill count is concerned, is 4 to the humans to 2 for the skeletons. But we have to add a full row here. And for the Empire, they have a banner. That's another one. That brings their score up to 6. The rear attack goes to 7, 8. With a difference of 8 to 2, that means 6 more skeletons crumble to dust rather than making a morale check, leaving them with just 5 in that front rank. And we're going to close up because our knights are also going to, they're just going to hang tight right there. And I believe all of the wounds go against the guys in front. I just think that makes the most sense that our skeletons are attacking to the front. As we begin turn 6, we recall that the Imperial spearmen have to pass a morale check before they can charge these skeletons. Therefore, let's go ahead and take the risk. If we can get them off the table in this direction, we'll be fine. And over here, we have to do melee. That's going to be 5 skeletons hitting on 4s and 12 Imperial spearmen. It's 11 spearmen plus the champion with his extra attack. Those guys are going to be hitting on 3s. 3 hits for the skeletons and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everybody is wounding on 4s. So that's 2 wounds that need to be saved for the Empire, only one of which it does, so we'll knock off. And the 3 skeletons saving on 6s are not going to get any, so 3 skeletons go down. We still have 6 more attacks for the Knights of the Lamb, who will all be hitting on 4s. So 4 more hits and wounding on, now they don't get the bonus anymore, so that's only 1 wounding hit, which saves on a 6. I rolled a 4, so that's 4 of these guys gone. And then the captain gets to make his attack. Now he's got a weapon skill of 5. He's going to be hitting on a 3, and he misses. So the skeletons manage to hold back the tide for 1 more turn. Oh, no, they don't actually, because the score is going to be 4, 5, 6. This last skeleton is going to crumble instead of making a morale check. That unit is now gone. No bonus movement in this case, but it becomes time for the Empire to move. And on the Imperial turn, these spearmen declare their charge in this direction. I know we probably should have declared charges before we moved all of these guys over here. I did bring our wizard over. He is out of range when it comes time for spell casting. He's not going to be able to reach the skeleton spears with his burning gaze. Now we can resolve this charge. Remember, they have to pass a leadership check. I forgot to bring the banner and champion front and center. Well, they're there now, and I think I forgot to mention that Dane used his full movement. He's going to leave the table on turn number 7. With the result of a 6, the spearmen stand their ground. They don't want any of that, but we're not done with this turn yet. We do still have the missile fire phase. And so Moses thunders the Lord's command. He is trying to shoot. Man, it's a long shot. It's the longest of long shots. Now, we learned last time, we called out 20 inches. Those skeletons are 2 inches further away, so they should be 26 inches away. I'm going to declare 25. That's 25 inches right there. Fixing what we did wrong last time, we have to roll first for 1 of the dice to see how far away it lands. An additional 2.5 inches, and I'm rolling that because if I roll boxcars on these 2 rolls, we have a misfire. So an additional 3 inches beyond. So the first cannonball is going to land right here. Remember, we divide it by half. So 2.5 inches looks a little something like this. And then 1 more inch isn't even going to carry the ball into Dane. If we'd rolled a 10 on this one, then that bounce might have just caught him. But we didn't. Which brings us to turn number 7. At the beginning of the video, I said we'll play 6 turns and see what happens. We are engaged in a rather interesting foot race. We know that the Vampire Thrall will make it off the table here in the movement phase of the undead, which leaves just 1 undead unit on the table. They will move to here, and that means on the next turn, you can see the edge of the table is right there. It's just 2 inches away. On the next turn, they will be able to get off of the table. So the only real issue we have is that in order to continue this turn 7, let's just play the whole thing out. And that means moving these knights. Well, we have to decide, are we going to take a shot with a cannon this turn, or are we going to try to reach them with the knights? Since the knights cannot reach the skeletons this turn, let's go ahead and make our declared charge to see if these guys get stuck in. Because if they don't, we have one last shot with that cannon. So we need a 7 or better. And on a 4, they will not, which means we have one last shot with the cannon. I'm going to declare 25 inches this time, which will land right there. For the record, I checked our spellcaster, Neil McGram, is not going to be in range. We roll. And this is important. In a normal tabletop game, it might not matter, but we're taking every liberty we can to see how this resolves. The Moses crew really wants to knock off a couple more of these skeletons, even at the risk of blowing up their cannon. So how far away is the bounce? 2.5 inches, and then it's another 1.5 inches for actual wounds. So 2.5 inches will land on, so that's 2.5 right there. It'll land on this guy, and we're going to have to make 2 strength 10 hits. Anything but a 1. So 6 and a 4 will eliminate these 2 skeletons, and then it becomes turn number 8. And on turn number 8, the rest of these skeletons will escape the battle. The Empire has got to be pleased with this. They lost just 7 spearmen, 3 of which will be out of the campaign for good, 3 will come back in 2 weeks, and 1 will dice for a 50-50 shot. But they managed to clear from the battlefield 18 zombies, 26 skeletons, and these 2 banshees who died without firing a shot. This was a delaying action the whole time. The banshees were hoping, I should say the thrall was hoping to use these banshees to at least do a little bit more damage, clear a few more Imperial troops off the board so that the coming assault on the Dark Lord's castle would go harder for the Imperials. As it is, not having this backup and not having any spellcasting backup means that the skeletons could not replenish their numbers as they normally do in a battle of this sort. Pretty interesting battle. We'll take a look at the next battle, which is coming up. There's another undead army only half a day's march away. That army is coming down this road, so we may pull the battlefield this way a little bit, leave these 2 copses of trees and the barrow mound right there, and fight another battle just a little bit to the north of this one. Until then, I'm praying for you.